What's up, YouTube? We're here with another video. Today we are looking at the top 10 Flash went too far. Because you know how this man could change time. He could do a lot of shit, like, for real. So I could see him messing up a few times. With that being said, just getting straight into the video.
Killing everyone in Sanctuary. Heroes in Crisis. Alright, let's start off our list by looking at the most recent Flash, Wally West, doing some pretty darn crazy stuff. So, between 2018 and 2019, Heroes in Crisis was a DC story event that, despite having crisis in the title, was a murder mystery by Tom King that essentially doubled down as a mental health PSA. In theory, fantastic idea. In execution, a little questionable, or at least as far as some fans were concerned. In it though, we see that there's a mass shooting at a place called Sanctuary, a rehabilitation center for superheroes that was set up by DC's Holy Trinity, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. This massacre kills off a slew of heroes, and Booster Gold and Harley Quinn become the primary suspects. But it is later revealed that the shooting was an accident caused by Wally West, whose family was wiped from existence prior. He's been suffering with a lot of stuff due to that.
So he fucked up so bad that his whole family was wiped out of existence. That's
mental stuff, PTSD, guys. Not fun.
Damn.
Turns out Wally West, who was amongst the death count, ran to the future, killed himself, brought back his corpse, and then planted it there to shed any onus. What the f, Wally? Eventually the truth comes out and Wally ends up in a Justice League prison and feels really, really crappy about himself, so.
Damn.
Yeah. Moving on to number 9, ignoring a woman's cry for help. In The Flash, issue 89. Alright, so Heroes in Crisis hasn't been the only time that Wally West has found himself in a pickle involving the well-being of others. In 1994, volume 2 of The Flash, issue 89, we witnessed the events of a civil lawsuit against Wally in which the plaintiff, Allison Armitage, was badly injured during a conflict in which Wally was fighting crime. Her injuries resulted in her legs being amputated afterwards. What the f? I would sue the shit out of Wally too if I were her.
Damn.
And she claims that Wally had ignored her cries for help, hence
So you telling me this man caused the girl to lose her leg?
why she got injured. She sought out $20 million in compensation. Of course, Wally believes that the villain Abracadabra, who was Allison's lawyer, is truly behind this. And because of the incident, the Barry Allen Foundation makes a deal with Allison and prohibits Wally from using the costume, the persona, and the powers of the Flash. In the following issue, Wally makes amends with Allison and manages to defeat Abracadabra, but that definitely isn't gonna give Allison her legs back, will it, Wally? Just saying. And at number 8, letting Savitar kill Iris. Moving on from the comics and into the
I remember this in a show.
CW Flash show for this number, let's talk a little bit about the TV version of Barry Allen from the Arrowverse. In season 3, episode 22 of the show, Barry makes a series of mistakes that eventually leads to Iris' death at the hands of Savitar, who is his own time remnant. The team had actively tried to prevent Iris' death with the creation of the Speed Force Bazooka to trap Savitar, which, side note, Speed Force Bazooka is such a ridiculous weapon name. Just saying, I know it makes sense in the context of the show, but it's like the f***ing cosmic treadmill. It's like, Flash's stuff is just so silly sometimes. Lovable, but silly. The plan was to hide Iris on Earth too, but Savitar is already one step ahead of them, disguises himself as Barry, and then gets Iris and takes her to Infantino Street, the location where she's supposed to die, and also, fun fact, a street named after the comic book legend Carmine Infantino. Savitar knew ahead of time how to stop the Speed Force Bazooka, and he still manages to kill Iris after all. I mean, come on, Barry. We all know you're smarter than that. And at number 7, accidentally causing Dante Ramone's death. Returning to the CW show for this number, Barry Allen is arguably responsible for the death of Dante Ramone, the older brother of Cisco. Barry does this thing where he believes that he can change the events of tragic occurrences, like the deaths of characters. Remember Flashpoint in the comics? Yeah, although apparently according to Doomsday Clock, Dr. Manhattan was really to blame. Anywho, in the show, in his grief over the death of his father at the hands of Zoom, Barry believes that he can reverse things, so he goes back in time to save his mother Nora from being murdered. But in the process, his actions result in Dante's death.
I remember in the show he did that too when he had a choice to like go back in time and save his mom. He does, but like it fucked up the whole timeline.
And a whole lot of grief for Cisco. And the worst part, when Cisco found out, you know he was probably like, seriously dude, another death thanks to Barry screwing with the timeline? Yep. What gives? Because this is a reoccurring thing. It's kind of problematic. Moving on to number 6, mindfuck. In Jeff Johns' The Flash issue 200, Wally West decides to use his time manipulation abilities in a more psychological way. by making Zoom relive his worst memory over and over and over again. Harsh, Wally. Feel like that's a trick you learned from Barry, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. So let's backtrack for a sec. Wally and Zoom had been hashing it out for several issues prior.
They try to put Zoom in a loop to relive his bad memories.
And our hero was having a real tough time bringing the Reverse Flash to justice. He had even siphoned off the speed of other good speedsters in an attempt to have more power than Zoom, but he still struggled. Zoom decided to hit Wally where it hurt most, attacking his wife Linda. Except it wasn't just Linda he was hurting. Linda was pregnant, and in the process of Zoom's attacks, the twins inside of her womb were killed, causing her to have a miscarriage. That pushed Wally over the edge, and he decided to do the worst thing he could possibly do to Zoom out of revenge. He freezes Zoom and forces him to watch the worst day of his life over and over and over again, causing the villain to shed a singular tear. That's how you know that he really got to him, that one tear. Whew. At number 5, he mind-wiped the world and let crime run rampant in The Flash issue 200. This number actually connects to our previous number. What we talked about before wasn't the only terrible thing that Wally did in that issue. He also let crime run rampant and mind-wiped the world. It's a bit of a double whammy at this number. After the conflict with Zoom wraps up, Wally decides he needs to reconsider having his identity be public because, you know, he just did some terrible stuff that doesn't look all too great. And as you can recall from our Heroes in Crisis number, Wally doesn't like to take blame for shit. Plus, the main reason is having his identity be public knowledge put Linda and his family and friends at risk. So he decided to call up his pals Hal Jordan and the Spectre to help him figure out what he should do. And Wally decides that the best approach is to mind wipe the world so everyone forgets that the Flash is Wally West. They do it, or rather the Spectre kinda does it, cause the bro's super powerful. And the mind wipe is so effective that even Wally forgets that he was the Flash for a hot second. The worst part is, the comic explicitly states after the mind wipe that because of this, there's a big boost in crime that occurs, meaning Wally's decision put a whole lot of innocent people in danger in the aftermath. Damn. Dude can't catch a break. In F4, he gloated of a dead criminal. From Flash Comics number 1. This is one of the earliest cases of the Flash being a tad extra, and it comes in Jay Garrick's tenure as the Scarlet Speedster in the Flash Comics issue 1. It was the golden age, so the occasional criminal homicide was much less of a big deal back then. Hey, Batman and Superman also knocked off a couple people back then, but no one talks about that anymore. Well, actually, we've talked about it a few times on our channel, but you guys get what we're going for here. In Flash Comics issue 1, Jay is really starting to take crime fighting and the responsibilities that go with it seriously. So he goes and seeks out a group of villains. But here's where it gets a bit fun. A villain named Sir Satan actually attempts to get away from the speedster by driving off, but Jay pursues him and then cuts the car off, which causes it to tumble down a hillside and kills Satan in the process. Instead of being like, oh crap, accidents happen I guess, Jay Garrick is like, nah, time to gloat over this criminal's corpse as he's still trapped inside of this steaming vehicle, which he does while announcing, I'm on hand just to see your finish, Sir Satan. Like a little extra there, Jay, little unnecessary, especially since no one else is there to watch you do the gloating. It's like entirely for your own selfish gain there. Little weird. Moving on to number 3, Suicidal Killin' Spree. The premise for this is pretty straightforward. The Flash in the future becomes evil, goes on a killing spree, goes back in time to kill himself, all as a means of saving himself. If you're not following, essentially, Flash went evil, and in order to save himself from being evil and killing everyone,
he went back to the past trying to go defeat his own self, but his own self tried to defeat the evil.
Despite killing all of the villains of the future, might I add, he attempts to stop more tragedy from occurring by offing himself before he turns evil. Still a little confusing, I know. You can tell that it's the evil Barry though because he wears blue and he snaps necks. In at number 2, he killed Professor Zoom in Flash issue 324. While you could take a look into any superhero's history and find that they've committed at least one homicide since their time of having powers or beginning their careers as vigilantes, the Flash is a character who, when he's committed murder, has done it in
killed his own the Flash's mom, like
more contemporary times, minus the one Jay Garrick one that we mentioned earlier. Golden and Silver Age murders, sure, we'll let those slide, but when murdering a foe is a pivotal plot point in your solo series, that we can't really ignore. Such is the case in the story leading up to the famous Trial of the Flash story arc. In the Flash issue 323 from 1983, Barry is getting married to Fiona Webb. In the lead up to the wedding, Zoom begins to leave creepy messages for the Scarlet Speedster, the likes of, Guess who's gonna kill your wife again? Actually. For context, Zoom, aka Reverse Flash, had previously murdered Iris on the day of her and Barry's wedding. Barry, late for the wedding this time around, rushes to Fiona, who thinks that she has been left at the altar because he's late. But Barry gets there just in time this time, and instead of just beating Zoom up like he did previously, he snaps his neck. Just fractions of a second before Zoom was about to kill Fiona in literally the exact same way that he had killed Iris. Barry is then arrested for manslaughter in the death of Eobard Thawne, and the Justice League are forced to decide whether or not to kick him out of the group. And finally, in at number 1, Eternal Punishment. What's worse than murder? How about eternally freezing someone's body but keeping them conscious so that they are frozen for all of time?
Yeah, that's kind of bogus. So you're telling me he froze someone and left them conscious in the ice, and that's
to the face of the one that they killed. Talk about intense punishment. Well, that revenge was a dish Barry Allen served real cold to Thaddeus Thawne, aka Inertia, Bart Allen's clone who was mixed with Zoom's DNA. Inertia is a little shit. Not only did he steal the real Bart Allen's speed, but he was also responsible for Bart Allen being gunned down by a group of supervillains, resulting in his death. Oh, and he also taunted Barry over it, noting that Bart's
Go back to that. That's actually interesting.
dish Barry Allen served real cold to Thaddeus Thawne. Forced to stare into the face of the one that they killed. Talk about an intense punishment. Well, that revenge was a dish Barry Allen served real cold to Thaddeus Thawne, aka Inertia, Bart Allen's clone who was mixed with Zoom's DNA. Inertia is a little shit. Not only did he steal the real Bart Allen's speed, but he was also responsible for Bart Allen being gunned down by a group of supervillains, resulting in his death.
Damn.
Oh, and he also taunted Barry over it, noting that Bart screamed like, I quote, a little bitch. Barry decides that death isn't enough for Inertia. He steals Inertia's Speed Force powers, turning him into a literal representation of his alias name. He's frozen for eternity in unblinking horror, only capable of breathing and thinking, forever immobilized. Barry then takes it a step further and places Inertia in the Bart Allen Museum, forcing him to stare at a statue of Bart for all eternity, describing it as Thaddeus now being, I quote, forced to stare with the eyes that take 100 years to blink at the ghost of the man he can never be. Like, good on you, Barry. Real creative punishment, but also that is f***ed up, my dude. Alright, there you have it, friends. Unfortunately, there's quite a few other shady things.
That's crazy. I learned some few things from this video. I never, like, how the fuck you going? I mean, I get it why he froze him and put him in the museum next to the person he killed. What's his name? I forget. Wally, I think it was. That's crazy. That's fucking crazy. I enjoyed this video, guys. If y'all didn't, give it a like. Drop a sub. I have more videos on the way. Be safe out there. Stay warm, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace, peace, peace.